meeting, social services meeting to order. Couple things to talk about today. Main thing, it has come up about the senior citizen. The auditors had discussed with the judge and, Peggy about a couple different options of things that needed to be handled differently, being the hospital, the library, and the senior citizen center. And the hospital and library, we've already addressed how we were gonna go about fixing that, but the senior citizen center has not been addressed. So, I apologize, I don't have all the numbers that I thought that I had today. I had a little bit more readily available, and Kelly had to be out of the office unexpectedly today. But basically what we need to discuss is maybe potentially the restructuring of the way the senior citizen center is. So my understanding is the senior citizen center is underneath, right now, we've been in the county does the payroll, they're on county payroll, they're on county benefits, county retirement, so, and they're on our budget. So for all acts and purposes, it appears that they are a county department. But nowhere can we find on record where that actually happened. Historically, they were like their own entity, and it appeared years ago that the county just gave them money under a grant and aid line item where they just kind of supplemented them a little bit. Somewhere along the line, that $20,000 to $30,000 of supplemental money come into about $250,000 of what we had in the budget for this year that we're supplementing. And we cannot find through the county clerk's office a resolution that ever made any of that happen. Or transition. That's pretty much where we're at, correct? Did I say all that right, Judge, as far as what the auditors mentioned?
On a regular basis, that's correct.
Right, so, and again, I apologize, I don't have the exact figures. It looks like the budget for them that we budgeted this year was about $450,000. Does that sound right to you? This one is 446. I seen another one that said 450 something.
Yeah, that's the expenditure budget, and that's their total expenditures. It counts the federal and state monies plus what we give them.
Okay, all right, but apparently I believe what we are giving them was
I
right
think it's
at around
242.
Yeah, it's right just under $250,000 is what we actually budgeted for them this year.
Yeah.
So I guess we need to look at figuring out how it was structured. My understanding is that the Area Agency on Aging, which is a statewide program, normally is the funding source for these types of agencies or offices. But there's some confusion of whether or not their funding was cut because their state funding was cut, or if their funding was cut for them because we're giving them so much money, so the state is no longer giving them as much. So I put in I have a request in to have a meeting with the director of the Eastern Division, which would be out of the Jonesboro office, to find out what that is in fact. Because my understanding is that the judge and Mr. Henry have done quite a bit of research, and best I can find, we are the only county in the state that is doing it this way. And it's running their payroll and running everything through the county. So while it's obviously a needed service for the county and for our senior citizens, we just need to figure out if this is the proper way to go about it, or if we need to assist in restructuring that to where they can go back to being a mainly state-funded organization. Questions, comments that
So if we're the only county, and I should have asked the judge earlier, just hadn't thought about it, but if we're the only county, like you said, doing it like this, what is like this? What are the other counties doing? How are they handling it?
And I don't know the answer to that. How much?
I should have asked you.
Well, the way I understand it is, in most times they find a benefactor for the senior citizens in that county. In the case of Craighead County, it's my understanding is, I believe it's St. Bernard. Yeah, one of the hospitals does that. So,
So does the county give St. Bernard's?
I don't
money?
think so. I noticed in that particular budget, they had $2,500 budgeted.
And that was it for senior citizens?
That's what I found, yes.
So in that particular instance, when you say benefactor, so St. Bernard's is the one that writes their payroll.
I don't know
Does
how
it
far
kind
they
of
go.
or what?
I don't know how far they go, but I know that that's the local
Sponsor?
sponsor.
Right.
Sponsor, I believe was the word.
Okay.
That's the group that signed the contract with East Area Agency.
is St. Bernard's is the one that's, so again, today's meeting really is more of a letting you know that this is some issues and to find out what questions you guys have. And I'll start doing some research on trying to get answers for those, but I need to know kind of what, and a little bit wanted to throw out the idea, I mean, are we in a general consensus that we should just, if this is the right way that we should go about it, is we should look at how it can be done differently, or, I mean, I don't understand how it was done without a resolution or something at some point in time, but apparently it was. Cause the judge is not aware of who was responsible for hiring and firing and all of that, but, I mean, obviously, I mean, it just, from a taxpayer standpoint, I could sit here and name 4 different directors over the last 15 years that I know, so, I mean, somebody's been hiring and firing directors out there.
Alright, what we need to do is find out first of all how the other counties are handling it. I happen to know that because I made a phone call to find out. We cannot, they should probably be set up as 501c3. And we cannot directly give money to a 501c3. However, we can contract for services. And those services can be human resource, any number of things, as long as it is something for the county. And I'll give you some examples because I know about these, because the city does them with a couple of different places. Red River Charitable Clinic receives $2,500 a year to provide care for indigent patients in Mississippi County. And our rules are written so, I'm on the board, the rules are written so that you have to prove you're a resident of Mississippi County, you have to prove you're less than 200% of the property of the poverty line, and then you can have services from the county, from the clinic, which includes medical, pharmaceutical, optometry, and dental. They also contract with Mission to care for the indigent who are homeless. I don't know how much they give the Mission, that's not any of my concern. Our contract with them is about 3 sentences. I do think that we should look at doing something like that, even if we don't carry the full budget. And it could be any amount that we set, and it would have to be done on a yearly basis. Every year, Red River signs a new contract with the City of Lawton. Because I'm one that signs it.
I believe, so I did a little research on that after you had discussed that with me, and I believe there actually is an exception to, I forget what the subsection is, but there's a list of where it says the counties cannot give money to corporations or blah, 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 this and stuff, except for, and it has a list of some very specific things that a county can give money for, and senior services is one of them. And I had that pulled up the other day and I meant to print it and I forgot. So, not to say that that's not still the same case, but there may be an exception.
It's probably a contract for services.
Maybe that's what
that was one of the things he mentioned when I was talking.
And that may be what the subset is that you can get away with it with a contract for these particular services. But senior citizen services was one of the exceptions on that subsection rule that I read. So again, I have a lot more questions than I have answers, but definitely something I don't think any of us really want to see. I mean, if it can get state funding and federal funding, I don't think any of us really want to see making a resolution to just make them a county department and we 100% take responsibility for them until the end of time. I mean, I don't think any of us want to see, because we're cutting our throat against federal funding and state funding, and feeding seniors should be something that there's plenty of grant funding and state and federal money for. Now, maybe not on the same level as what we're doing, and I don't know exactly how that works. I mean, it was suggested that if they don't maybe have a benefactor like Craighead County, then is that a situation where the area agency on aging just maintains the control of that organization? Which, for some reason, that's how I thought it was done at once upon a time out there, here, locally. I thought it was a division of the area agency on aging.
They're under them somehow, Because I know they control the state and federal money, so
Right.
they've got great influence over them.
And
They're
I,
actually the ones that owns the vehicles.
well, that's what I,
And meals, aren't they?
They provide them with some vehicles, they do.
so, a couple things that I think, I mean, again, like I said, we have more questions than we have answers today, but one thing that I think should be addressed, because this has come up as an issue, and we are in question, obviously, nobody wants to pull their funding for 2022. I mean, we've budgeted, I mean, it's already budgeted, we're pretty much, have to go forward with that. But we have $100,000 of ARP money already appropriated to buy 3 vehicles, I believe, for them, and I'm not so sure that that's the right thing that we should spend that money on at this time, while we already have all these questions and no answers.
Well, I'm gonna recommend that we rescind that appropriation at this time until such time as we get the answers that we need. And I'll make that informed motion.
Let me ask you before you complete that motion, so that we're clear here, and I'm not on this committee, but are you wanting to make a motion to repeal or amend that appropriation ordinance, or to just have a resolution of holding it until we have further discussions?
That resolution holding it until we have further.
I'm not trying to talk you into either way.
No, the thing is, what I think we're gonna find out in the long run, I think they're gonna have to be a 501(c)(3) status.
Are they in other counties?
And, you know, where do we need to go from there? Because obviously, if they've got $400,000 budget, are we overseeing those grants? Are they coming as pass through to us? Or are they going directly to senior citizens?
No, they're pass-throughs. They come, since we're budgeting the full $400,000, they come into Mississippi County, and then we flow them back out again.
Yeah, and Peggy said that they're even handling, and I didn't realize this either, but in just the beginning research stages, that they're handling the receivables from the Senior Citizen Center.
Their daily revenue.
Yes, but she said, but obviously there's, all they're doing is taking they're taking the money to Peggy's office, and Peggy and them are counting it, and it says, yes, this is what you said that we're supposed to have, but there's still no real checks and balances as to if that they're taking all, you know what I mean?
If they have enough money around them or not.
Right. So there's just a lot of, it's just really finagled, really funny on who has responsibility for what. It's like we don't have responsibility for everything, but we're spending an awful lot of money for. Yeah. So.
I'll tell you a question I'd like for you to ask is who, in other counties and other circumstances, who's responsible for hiring the personnel? I mean, it was a little bit of a surprise for the judge to find out that when Amanda told him that he was her boss,
Right.
and he was the one that could fire her. And I don't know that, if other counties aren't doing this,
Well,
is
yeah.
it the sponsors, or is it AEA, AA, or whoever?
And my same question with that would be, if it's been, how long you've been in office for, what, is this your third year? And so, they, on other departments, and I don't know how it's done, but the other departments, the department heads not do like annual reviews with the employees, and, is that just something that's just not ever been done? And so, then you get back to the fact that I question whether or not we have people in place out there that are using the money as wisely, or making cuts that need to be, it's easy when Neil knows, he's run a business down there before, where if you can just go back and get more money when things get higher, and you just go back and get more money, but at some point in time, you have to maybe cut some expenses and cut some services, so you can't just keep dipping back in the pot and asking for more and more money at some point in time. So, I would question a couple of those things. So anyway, there's definitely more questions. So you have a motion on the floor to.
Resolution to hold the finance, hold the appropriation on the vans until we get this straightened out.
Okay.
I'll second that one.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second.
On that, it ain't gonna be taking nothing from the county judge, the money. You just talking about the car.
Right.
We're
It's
just talking
the-
about the $100,000 for the car, the ARP, the revenue replacement money that was designated to give them $100,000. We're just talking about holding that appropriation until we figure out.
When all this COVID-19 go away, we might be thinking about getting something we own ourselves. At one time, you know, when they were thinking about getting their own, we rent their building, or whatever they did. So,
Well,
Well,
those
that's
are all,
kind of the way this came up. There's been some conversation about trying to find another place, out of the COVID money or whatever.
Revenue replacement fund.
Revenue replacement fund. That's how this kind of started. I sure wasn't aware, ever since I've been on the board, it's just been, their budget comes through, and we approve it. I know there's been a time or two we've had to go back and supplement their budget.
and I think that's been happening a lot, and I think that's where we're really starting to get to the point where now we're starting to look and say, okay, what, like, you know, we went from giving them, you know, $30,000 or $40,000 a year to $50,000 a year, you know, every year $10,000 increase doesn't seem like much, but now here we sit and we gave them a $250,000. We need to start asking some questions before we increase anymore. That's my opinion. All right, motion on the floor, and I have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay. So, do we have time to get that on for court tomorrow? Probably not. Yes, no, the resolution?
I don't know, as long as it's a resolution of this committee and the judge is in agreement, I don't know if you have to pass it through the full court.
Okay,
Yeah, that way the money just won't be spent.
it just won't be spent. Okay, okay. All right, so the other, thing on the agenda today was, and again, this is something to be thinking about, so if we open up a can of worms, we're gonna kind of just give some money to other organizations, but the request from the Union County Mission is potentially working on a grant project for a roof replacement. Of course, the mission does a lot of work, I mean, for the county, they are a good, resource as far as helping and housing, homeless people in the area and helping lots of other different things with fires and different stuff. Anyway, my understanding is, and Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, they have a matching grant, but they're gonna come up a little short.
They've got a matching grant of $275,000. But they have to spend the money to be reimbursed for it. I was doing some checking today, because I asked the question, they've got 40,000 that they've raised so far. And what my recommendation was, that I talked to Eddie Jones to make sure that we could do this, doing a contract for service. The Sheriff's Department transports people who are homeless that they find out on the side of the road, wherever, you know, to give them a place to stay. They rent motel rooms for people to stay in if they don't have the ability. They do food boxes. Every day they're passing out like 80 food boxes a day. All this is things that they get through grants, USDA and different places. At some point in time, and I'm not gonna make this immediate today because they're still working on the finances, I'd like to recommend that we do basically like a 5-year contract for $5,000 a year to provide services to residents of Mississippi County. We pay it up front, one time, so that they can free up funds to help with the roof. It is leaking, as a matter of fact, they can't even use their rooms going right now. I'm not planning to come back and ask for this every year after that, I'm just trying to get some help with doing this and trying to get it to a contract for services. I think we figured out how they can do it with 25,000 and go ahead and get that grant back and then do some more roofing projects with that money. So they do have a lot of work that they need to do on the building. If we get another flood like we did a couple of years ago, I'm gonna work with FEMA as a floodplain administrator, see if I can get a new building built somewhere else, demo that one out, and get it out of the floodplain. I don't know if we're gonna be able to do that on a continuous loss type thing. But that is something I'd like to put forward, just as contract for services. Say, I'm only asking for one time.
And,
5,000 for 5 years.
yeah, but paying it all up front. 100% right. And I don't think he was, there's still a few things before they need to really move on that, but I wanted you guys to be aware of that, because whatever we handle here, we need to understand there's already somebody that may, in the county that's gonna be requesting some funds, so we just wanna be very careful to make sure that we do things fair.
It might not be something we even wanna do, but it's something I wanna put out there, keep in mind that I think this is a worthwhile organization to help. I don't always agree with helping everybody, but I think this is worthwhile.
Well, they do keeping transients off the streets, there's a lot to be
You
said
know,
about that.
I got a whole lot, I like that organization place in hand, then they had one or two people down there, whatever, but the county, you're in the right direction now, going and redoing this stuff, and I'm for that, 100%. And I'm for giving him, get him the money, cause I had to get a couch over here to sleep on. So I'm for that, I'm gonna make it quick, but, we got a new judge, you got a new everything, I won't be here next year. But God has blessed me to serve all that term. Was on there. I think that was 20-something years. So a lot of people ain't made two. But no, if we can do this, then take the time and get it all together. Cause I don't believe in the money going nowhere but coming to the county. You know what I mean? Everybody don't. That's why we had problem. I don't know. I don't know, but they had problem with this. If this man need a roof, somebody else already said they gonna put the roof on there. But then we gonna regulate that money right. That money gonna be going another way. And so if you check everything out, yeah, we know we don't mind helping nobody. But you gotta check all the odds and ends out, because we ain't gonna go with in the spelling yet. But we know what I'm talking about. If I'm gonna buy a roof, somebody else wanna help too. We don't want nobody to be hungry. We don't want nobody to be they can't go to the bathroom or nothing like that. But you got about 4 people. I'm gonna call 4 or 5 people, and everybody gonna give us some money. And down that line, if you ain't got that in writing, I got it somewhere writing, I'm gonna take that money. Might go to a casino or something. Oh, I'm through.
Well, thank you for that. Well, like I said, the main thing is I wanted you to be aware of whatever way you're structuring this. I mean, these are the Senior Citizen Center and the Union Mission are definitely very worthy causes that help the county. We just need to be very careful not to open up a can of worms for every 501c3 that needs some assistance in the county. And so I just wanted y'all to be aware that was coming. However we structure one, we just want to make sure we're not opening that door. All right, so I know that I'm going to, I'm not really sure where to start, other than, you think the area agency on aging director can tell me how things are done in other counties, or is?
I think that's their regulatory oversight.
Okay, so that's where I'm gonna start. Like I said, I have an email request to have a phone meeting with the director of the Eastern Division, and hopefully I can get some answers to questions. And like I said, I really hope that we can kind of just get some answers to the questions and all have a better mindset before we get to budget time for 2023.
Perfect timing.
Right, now, this is March, and we will start talking about the budget in, early fall, and so, we need to know what we're doing before we sit back down and say, okay, we're gonna put all this in our budget for 2023. So, and if y'all have any questions come up, shoot me an email or a text or call me, so I'll make sure I'll ask those questions, as I'm kind of trying to start out on my research, so.
Justice,
Yes.
I have a question concerning the structure. We will definitely look into the structure.
Absolutely.
What's not going on here, particularly against what has been done in other counties?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Rick's right. I really think they probably should be a 501c3. I think that's where the federal and state funding would come. And and again, I don't know. I'm just speculating, but it just makes me wonder, because the senior citizen girls, just keep saying that their funding was cut, but no one really knows why their funding was cut. You know what I mean? So it's like, is it because that, they looked up and realized that the county government's giving them $250,000, so we don't have to,
Right, and then also with that, how are they able actually to get funded? This has to be something there for the feds and the state to give the money to, you know.
And they
so-
may, right,
Yeah,
that's
right,
exactly
right,
right, that's,
right.
I mean, there just seems to be a whole lot of things that have not been passed, you know, it's that whole when you whisper a secret in somebody's ear and we go all the way around this table, by the time it gets back here, it's something different, I kind of think that might be what's happened here, nobody really knew what they were, you know, they just got bits and pieces, and they have had a lot of director changes over the last 10, 15 years, so it's just kind of,
Difficult job.
you know, I mean, and I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure, you know, I know, but,
You know, you mentioned their budget was over $400,000, but yet they've had much larger budgets. Many years ago, it's over 600,000. And,
Right.
you know, it's just kind of shrunk down, and just to point out too, they have shrunk their own services to the point they've shut down 2 different centers. One on the west side and one down south.
right, so we're just operating the two OCL and Wobble, but, right, OCL Wobble, where's the third one?
Now,
Oh, no, that's right, no, that's that one, you're right. Well, and I mean, and of their budget, I mean, this expense item at a 446,313 is out of salaries. It's not food costs, and food, we all know food costs are going up, so if we gave them $250,000 last year.
sounds like Mississippi County,
Right,
our county budget.
you know, so,
But that's
but
normal
think
for
about it,
any-
with food costs, if we gave them
Yeah.
what we gave them last year, what are they gonna be asking for come this fall?
No, your timing is great.
So anyway, does anybody have anything else that they need to talk about for the social services? Any questions?
We might want to look into, the facilities that they're using. My understanding is the one in Manila belongs to the city.
That's my
The
understanding.
one in Osceola, I think belongs to the city of Osceola. This one down here, the county's paying rent on.
It belongs to the area, the East Arkansas Area
That's right.
Agency on Aging. And we pay them $1,000 a month or
That sounds-
$1,100 a month. It's either 1,000 or 1,100, but
That sounds
it belongs to them, and they're
Okay,
charging us rent.
right. Yeah, see, there's something's gotten muddied up.
Might wanna ask about
Yeah.
that too.
I had forgot, I didn't realize that, I knew we paid
It's the
rent.
old MCCC Sons
Yeah.
gym.
Yeah, I thought it belonged to, still belonged to the old Sons Foundation or something.
Alright, so the Arkansas Area Agent, that's so hard to say. Arkansas Area Agency on Aging is the one that owns that building.
Yes. And charges the county
We don't do
rent.
anything standard.
And it's actually not designed for that kind of purpose, and it's
On our part.
functional because it has been
Yeah, but
functioning,
I'm
but
sure the utilities are not, it's not
oh,
very.
it's terrible
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's just several things that need to change about the way it's done, one way or the other, whether it stays under the county or it doesn't stay under the county. I think that we're gonna have to shore up some things and take some controls.
Yeah.
I may be mistaken, but I think one year, some general may remember better than I do. If I'm not mistaken, one year we came up here and they were about $60,000 in a hole.
Yeah.
Very long.
My understanding was that they were operating in the red a lot, and that's what kept happening is we kept giving them more money to keep them out of the red. Yeah. So I just go back to the fact that we may not have people out there that properly know how to manage control expenses.
Or they may just need some assistance.
Or they need some assistance, that's exactly right.
It's not a time.
But again, if nobody knew who they, if the county judge didn't know that they were their boss, you know, then they're just kind of out there running willy-nilly on their own.
I'd like to figure out where it started.
I mean,
have 30-some years, you should.
I know, that's what I'm saying, you and Judge Nelson, there, y'all already got the years in the room.
I remember all that, Michael.
Yeah.
I wasn't on that committee.
And the question, how many years, I mean, that would surely be in our budget,
Well, that's what I was
so we
fixing,
would
yeah.
have to keep up. How many years have we been giving you money?
That's what so Janice can't, the county clerk's office can't find an ordinance of any kind, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that the thing today would be to pull budgets for them as far back as I can start pulling budgets
I've
and
got
see if I
stuff
can't,
like this in my forward.
and see if I can't figure out where, and watch the progression of money. You know what I mean? Like, that might give us a better idea of what year we really got off track and got out of whack.
And the lady or whoever it is in Jonesboro can probably tell you too.
Maybe.
So Toby, you pulled the expenditure budget when you were pulling that right there. Really what we need to be looking at is the revenue budget.
Yes, yes,
So
You are right.
projected revenues, we need to be
Yes.
looking at, to see where their money was coming from.
right, well, we need to be looking at both, projected revenue versus expenses, I mean.
You have both of those back, even further back.
For
Well,
quite a while.
I thought Kelly had sent me the full budget, or I'd asked her for that, but it wasn't when I went, and like I said, and she had to be out of the office unexpectedly today, so I'll get some of those, information. All right, any other questions before we adjourn? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
What we're doing,